Montech, their slogan is the best value, which is probably very true considering with every case, at least with 2 of my cases, I received like 2 kilograms of paper, like legit printable A4 paper that I can definitely use in the future. Very confusing though and unusual, very likely not something you'll receive with your retail sample. Yeah, I love me an affordable enclosure, especially when there's a correct balance between build quality, airflow performance, feature set, compatibility with hardware, and of course the price. And so the Montech AIR 903, both the base and the max, I have both of them, are very interesting and definitely should be considered if you're strictly in a budget without wanting to completely compromise the airflow of your system. So the porosity on the front panel, for example, is totally adequate to deliver enough airflow, although the side ventilation is definitely restricting. It's not as open and there's nothing coming from the side, it's all delivered from the front. I love the easily removable mesh panel here that will also collect some dust so you can take it off for cleaning, and here we have our fans. I really hope you don't need to replace these because the frame is on the interior of the fan. That means that you have to screw everything from the inside and not from this easy access at the front. I mean, just imagine trying to access this bottom screw on the other side. You have to remove the hard drive cage and you have to do some screwdriver gymnastics, which I'm not a fan of. The I/O is very decent, and notice the dual USB-A ports that are properly spaced out. So if you're using a wider USB device, it's not going to interfere that much. So this port is totally open for other accessories. Also, you know how the USB-C port for the I/O on a budget enclosure is most of the time optional. I'm looking at you, Land Cool. Here, it's not. And it's actually pretty decent in terms of speed using my Gen 2x2 Clef drive. Of course, the native motherboard USB-C port is faster, but the case USB-C is not slow by any means. Why am I so angled? My only complaint with the I/O is the power button because the interior is not centered and therefore it looks off. Now for a budget enclosure, the build quality on both of my units is actually really solid, like 95%. But some people have reported about dented front panels because it is mesh, it's fairly thin, which was done at the factory and not through shipping, which now I'm thinking about it, all the paper that was added into the box was maybe for padding, but I have no idea. But you can definitely tell they cut 2 corners. First of all, the rubber grommets. You might as well just throw them away because they hold no shape. As soon as you pass like even a fan cable, they will fall out. And number 2, just get the black color because the white in terms of the shade is way too cool. It's very blue compared to all my other white hardware that does not fit in any way. And so if you're going for the white model, just expect it to not match any of your other white hardware.
Be ready to be captivated by a fusion of vivid colors, deeper blacks, and a wicked fast 240Hz refresh rate with Corsair's Xeneon Flex gaming monitor, featuring the world's first bendable OLED display in a stunning 45-inch WQHD ultra-wide aspect ratio. Immerse yourself in gaming and other productive tasks. You get all the extra goodies for ultimate speed and precision within a game, get quick access to a few USB ports at the front and plenty of other display connectivity options at the back, and all this tech is backed with their advanced burn-in protection and a 3-year warranty. If you're looking to flex your gaming setup, look no further than Corsair's Xeneon Flex. Learn more down below.
Interestingly, they are being careful with this glass side panel, asking you to lay the case flat in order to remove it. That is done because the side panel, once you unlock it and pull it back, has nothing supporting it aside from this bottom physical lip, but otherwise it could simply fall off, and regardless of your surface, it might crack. You know, this is tempered glass after all, so I actually appreciate Montech's carefulness here. Put them back. Interesting fact, side panels are totally interchangeable from left to right. So if you don't really care about your hardware and just really want to showcase your beautiful cable management skills, that's a possibility, friends. Look at this. These are legitimately good value enclosures, $65 for the base model and $79 for the max. The base model comes with 3 140mm fans that spin at 1600 RPM, and given such good airflow direction from the front, you're guaranteed adequate cooling out of the box. And the $79, you get 3 RGB fans, 140mm at the front with an ARGB controller that you can plug into the motherboard or deal directly with an LED button on the enclosure. You don't get all the colors, but you have some variety there, which is still awesome. And an included 140mm fan for the rear exhaust as well. So you get 4 fans for the price of $79. That looks this way. You don't see that quite often, you know? Now the interior is very basic. There's nothing fancy here. I mean, only 2 rubber grommets on the side of the motherboard, even though we have lots of cutouts all around. Lots of height above the motherboard for radiator instead of fans without any issues. Massive GPU support, 360 at the top, 360 at the front, and vertical GPU support as well with the optional orientation. We do have 2 optional fan mounts on the power supply shroud. It is ventilated, but don't expect this to do anything just because the power supply is going to block most of the airflow from this fan, and this area is just not as open. This whole area on the side of the motherboard is non-removable. I thought it might be because of how indented it is, and I thought it might be a separate panel you can take off, but you can't. That space is used for storage at the back. The power supply dust filter is removable from the back, pretty standard stuff. And this is the only visible branding you'll find on the enclosure, just Montech written on the power supply shroud. I mean, not even a logo. What's going on? This is very budget. This is the other place where you actually see any branding, right behind the front mesh panel. And of course, the fans, stickers of which are always misaligned. It looks like I have finally found the logo on this damn case. It's on the Velcro straps, which by the way, do block most of the access towards your main cables. So this isn't ideal, but I mean, this is fine. Storage-wise, we got dual SSD caddies, 3.5, 3.5, and an additional hard drive cage over here that can be removed if you want to give yourself a little bit more clearance away from the front for radiator instead of fans. Now, the building experience for such a value-oriented enclosure is totally adequate, aside from the stupid rubber grommets that constantly fall out. This is also quite frustrating. The top filter, as you can see, it is magnetic, but this little magnetic strip runs right along the 120mm mounts, at least on this side. So there and here. I mean, didn't think about that one, did they? But look what I discovered. Padding on our glass panel at the top and the bottom so it does not vibrate. The metal side panel, however, is very thin and bends way too easily. There is adequate room and cutout around the PCI slots for the screwdriver to fit. All the cutouts underneath the power supply shroud are exactly where they should be. So the question I want to answer is whether or not you should go with the base or the RGB model for strictly performance. So looking at CPUs, like there's no difference. You know, we have an additional fan on the Max model, but we already have such good airflow delivery. And removing the front panel, you can see there is a little bit of a improvement. So the front panel isn't totally open. It is a little bit restricted, but still 72 degrees Celsius on the CPU is perfectly fine for the 4.8 gigahertz. However, the Max system is louder because of that additional fan by 2 decibels. It's not that significant, but the system is fairly loud because we have 4 140mm fans running at 1600 RPM. That's not insignificant, so definitely lowering things to bring it down to somewhat adequate levels is definitely necessary. On the GPU side, there's only a 1 degree difference between our base and max configurations, which is not that significant. And you can see it performs perfectly adequate for a pretty high-end system. For the base, $65 enclosure with 3 fans. And I'm very impressed here, Montech, very impressed. Honestly, for the $65 price point, the base configuration is the way to go, simply because you get awesome cooling out of the box, a very decent building experience. It's not a massive enclosure, and even though they are all advertising like you can fit large EATX motherboards, no one is buying a $65 enclosure to fit an EATX motherboard. Come on, this is mainly for configuration of massive GPUs and give you that potential, and the fact that you can do a 360 the top and the front is just awesome. The only compromise when it comes to functional building assembly is, for example, removing the front fans for installation of something else. That's a complete pain. It would be awesome if that whole space was maybe a removable bracket or the frame was on the exterior, so mounting the fans would be easier. The compromise with the RGB model is the included controller on the case itself for lighting, because you only have a few effects. You only have 3 color or 4 color options, so not as many as like what you would find on Phanteks built-in hub for the case lighting. So I would highly recommend, if you are buying the RGB model, to connect it to your motherboard for much better lighting control, which is probably why you want the RGB in the first place. And I wish that they would include some more color variations, because right now there's like 4 colors and they are kind of ugly. Working with these guys and seeing Montech at Computex and what they have in store, like wow, this is going to be the budget brand. I love that the value, the best value slogan is actually fitting, you know, despite all the paper that's included. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of the Air 903 base and max in the comments. I'm Dmitry. Thanks so much for watching. I'll talk to you in the next video.